What's going on? What's going on, FW? Welcome in, welcome in. Everyone should be trickling in here just shortly. But what a great start to the week. I think that was a even more beautiful ending to the day. I want to say. What's going on, Jason? But welcome in, welcome in. Pretty much, no, today was more so. I felt that we were gonna get stuck in a box, and that's literally what it ended up feeling like. But even by the end of like power hour here, we were just stuck in a box. And why did we get stuck in a box? Exactly, you took the words right out of my mouth, Jason. I'm just not gonna use that word, but exactly the phrase that I want to say. That's why there wasn't too much for me to say after like 11 a.m. this morning. We had that little morning push, a little. I want to say the dump. Then we got the push, which kind of felt like we were just gonna get pretty much stuck in between. Basically, your opening range is high to low, and we are just gonna get stuck going sideways. That's initially what I pretty much expected the day to go for. But and that's pretty much the biggest point there, Jason, is that I hope most of you ended up coming out green. But days like today, where you feel like you're gonna get stuck in a box, is the days where you particularly want to end up trying to be sniper mode. And why I mean sniper mode is that you do not want to cause yourself to be holding longer than you should. If you see you're in the green, you want to take your profits, especially in days where you're in such a tight range like we were today. So that's pretty much the big takeaway. If there's one thing that you wanted to pretty much understand is that, especially when I'm saying, I kind of mentioned it this morning in a sense that it felt like they were going to put us in a range. And what is the reason for us to be in a range is that there's no reason for the market to really have a bigger directional move because the market really wants to hear what Powell's going to say. Are we going to basically get those 50 basis point rate hikes back to back? That's pretty much expected in the upcoming months here. Or is he going to end up maybe flipping the script? Maybe we get a surprise. Maybe we're going to end up getting a 75 basis point rate hike. So that's really what the market's just waiting on is just those words to come out of his mouth before you're going to see that vertical price action, whether it be north or south. And that's exactly why you saw that the market literally, what I would say is today is a consolidation type of day, right? You got the move up that pretty much ended up happening already, and now you just consolidate it, and now you wait for Powell to see whether we're actually in a peculiar spot. My chart actually got deleted over the weekend on Spy, all my lines, my boxes, and everything. So I'll have to redo it later on, sometime probably tonight or tomorrow. But what actually is like peculiar about this spot is that one, you can obviously identify you have a beautiful little inverted head and shoulders. That's pretty much, yeah, it is technically an inverted head and shoulders. Do I think it's going to be invalidated? Now that pretty much comes up to Powell, right? But that is an inverted head and shoulders. Obviously, you see that. The other peculiar spot that, and why I say it's a peculiar spot really, is that because you have two different gap fills to be completed here. You have one gap fill up top, and then you also have another gap fill here down at the bottom. So now it's a matter of, all right, depending upon what Powell is going to say, is likely where we're going to end up filling that gap. If he's more than likely going to end up saying back to back 50 basis point rate hike, then I'm inclined to say that we're likely going to end up going north and we're likely going to end up seeing 410. And why do I say that? Not the fact that I'm being biased in either direction, bullish or bearish, but I do think that the market's going to take it bullish in the sense that the Feds are not tightening and that it would end up being 410. Do I see beyond 410? Honestly, no, I do not. Reason being is because kind of how we had the wrong impression off of FOMC. If you guys remember that, and I usually say, the first reaction is the wrong reaction. What I'm kind of anticipating is that he is going to say back to back 50 basis point rate hike. The market's going to take that as the fact that they're not tightening. And then as the market digests it overnight, now they're going to realize that the Feds are not doing enough to tighten up about inflation, and that inflation is basically still going to be elevated and it's going to be high. So what they actually ended up doing about just putting only a 50 base uh, rate hike is not going to be enough to tackle inflation. And so the market's likely going to end up the next day taking that bad, and we basically reverse off of that 410 mark that we're going to end up filling the gap to the upside. That's what I imagine. That's pretty much the picture projection that I'm looking at. But again, that's why I'm giving you the flip side scenario, in which case, depending upon what he says, you're likely going for either gap fill. My impression is that we go to 410. He gives the market what they are anticipating about the 50 basis. Then we flush the next day, in which Wednesday is going to be a bloody day. And we even have potential to come down all the way towards this gap fill here on Wednesday to the downside. So that's just what my projection is, what I'm looking at. Otherwise, if he gives the market a shake up, the market doesn't like what he says, then more than likely we end up filling this gap right off the bat, probably even one candle for that matter. And then we end up going down to likely even take out, retest the lows, and we'll see if we take out this 385 low, in which the next spot that I was particularly looking at was 383. Below that, I have 381 half is the spot that I was watching for. All right. So that's, I'm pretty quiet. Um, no, let me see if I can increase it real quick. I'll increase it for you guys. If anyone can just give me a quick update, but you should be able to hear me pretty loud and clear right now. I think I just maxed out the volume there. But if you can just give me a quick update, anyone, just in case of anything, I should be maxed out in terms of volume there. I think we should be fine. I would assume. But if anything, just let me know and I'll see if I can do any more edits here on my end. All right. But hopefully you at least heard what I just mentioned. If not, I can repeat it. But that was pretty much my impression again. Market's gonna get what it wants. We go to 410 and then we end up flushing. Jason, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm glad to hear you guys are better now. So again, those of you in case you didn't hear, I expect the market to get what they want. 50 basis point rate hike. We go north, fill the gap to the upside first, go to 410, and then the market's gonna digest it in the sense that the Feds are not gonna end up doing enough to tackle inflation by just giving us only a 50 basis rate hike, and then we're gonna fill the gap to the downside here. And then what's likely gonna end up happening is that we're gonna test these lows of that 385. We take that out, then we're likely flirting with 383, and then we're gonna go down towards 381 half is what I have as the next levels below. All right. Sounds good, sounds good. And then Lee, you can barely hear me. So I got three, four people saying better, and one saying he can barely hear me. That's kind of odd. I gotta say that. But I think my volume, I think I pretty much maxed it out. Did I? Pretty sure I maxed it out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm maxed out as of right now. Like I took the bars all the way up. Flush it, bro. I expect us to go down. I'll be honest with you. I think we're gonna go down. I also saw that big bear. I don't know if you guys saw that in the primary chat, the cloud base. There was actually the biggest bear, I think, in in the funds. He actually has the biggest bet against Apple going down. That's actually pretty impressive. To be betting against Apple of all names that you're betting on. I can understand you betting on Amazon or Facebook, Tesla for that matter. But to go against Apple, yeah, that's tough going. Being the biggest bear in Apple there. So that was one that actually caught my interest. But I was overall pretty much bearish to be honest with you. I think we have more downside. But this is where you can't get biased in terms of day-to-day price action. You're going to get these bear market rallies. That's basically what you ended up. Joe, you can barely hear me, but when I have you on Bluetooth in the car, it sounds awesome. That is really odd. I've heard that a few times, in which it depends on what device you're listening to me. It sounds different. I had someone else mention that. That's really odd because my volume is pretty much maxed out on my end. If you can hear me on one device and not the other, that's really what's weird about it. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some searching. I might have to end up looking up on Google to find out why that is. Because if you're hearing me on one device, you should be able to hear me on all the other devices the same, at the same, no, how loud I am basically, the same volume, which is very odd. But honestly, I don't have a short fix right at the moment, Joe. I wish I could do something, but not at the very moment. I'll probably look it up tonight, and I'll see if there's anything that I can tell you, or maybe there's something else on the back end of detailed, advanced settings that I can do for you. All right, but try to hang in there. All right. I'll take a look at the names you guys want me to. So any names that you guys want to look at, I'll take a look at them right now. I'll go through those. I know that time is a little bit limited today. I know that Sig and Dapper are going to be Today's actually a really good class. They're going to be going in depth again with the indicator pack, and they're going to be going through some strats. So that's going to be a very interesting class, especially those of you that are trying to learn on your own, especially with the indicator, trying to trade on your own. I highly recommend that you stay in tune to that. All right, you Randy, I'll take a look at it. I'll probably have to Google something online about YouTube and hearing between different devices being different volumes. That's really weird. But let me take a look at stuff. Oxy. I'll take a look at Oxy. Oil had itself quite the day today. That was extremely impressive out of what oil did. They literally felt like they were gonna just carry the market. But obviously they don't carry enough weight per se to really keep the market afloat for a magnitude of time. Basically, is what I would say. But what I would look at is, and this kind of actually sets up a little bit of one of my favorite patterns. Let's see if the bottom kind of aligns here. Um, Probably let's see if I can drag it out just a bit. I'm hoping this actually sets up to be one of my favorite patterns. Let's see if it is or not. Yeah, we can make a case. Might be a little descending broad and wedge action here. This is actually one of my new favorite patterns in the market, to be honest with you. It's just because of the fact that, and I'll show you exactly why, is that once you're able to pretty much catch the downtrend support line, it ends up literally being an impulse towards the resistance on any type of descending broadening wedge action. And that's what I actually love the most, is because once you're able to catch that very bottom, you're able to snipe that bottom of that trend line support, you end up having pretty much the biggest upside potential because of how wide it is in terms of support up to your resistance. This is just a beautiful one. I'll show you another one that I actually have my eyes on, but this is a beautiful one. I love Oxy here. I think you have a lot more upside in energy in oil names here. So this is one. In particular, your resistance that you're watching here is roughly this 73.62 mark. That's where you're gonna want to see that you're able to break over the resistance, and then you'll have full on upside. But right now, that's your short term resistance. Is that 73.62 mark. You want to end up getting up towards that move in which you have about another $5 upside here until you hit that resistance point there, transitory. So that's what you would look for. 73.62, you end up getting that break, and then you could potentially look to end up testing what was, I want to say, a little bit of a prior distribution before, but that level of resistance that you had a hard time getting over was this 82 level that acted as prior support and then prior resistance. So 82 would be that level that I would want to see us break over once you're able to make it past that 79.62 on the downtrend resistance. All right. But those would be the two levels that I would key in on. Otherwise, if you're looking to find out at what point you should end up exiting, in which is maybe your stop loss being triggered at some point, would be this 57 half. That would be the level in which I say that you would particularly watch for if there's any reversal. All right. So that's what I would particularly look for in terms of Roxy, but that's definitely one name that I do like. I think energy in particular itself is that, there's more upside. I think I also heard Sig mention that during live today a little bit earlier on in the morning session. Once he got on, he's expecting some more upside in energy. I would think he's still thinking the same right now. But when I looked across the board, when I looked at pretty much most of the oil energy names, they all looked beautiful. Even the name that I know that Avery actually in particular loves, DVN, that was another one that just looked amazing. So I think you stick with that sector in general if you're looking to play the upside. I think you stick with energy rather than trying to force a situation with names within tech. All right. Other than that one, I think someone else mentioned another name. Was there? If not, I'll actually show you one. Let's see. All right, so I'll show you one that's actually similar. Little better, but not Avery volume. Huh. All right. Again, I'm going to try to buy you a louder mic. That's why I'm like, it's not the mic, and I actually have the settings all the way up. That's really the odd part right now. That's really just I'm actually see something real quick. Hold on. Let me see if I can go into the settings real quick into something. Let's see. Just a sec. Yeah, because I know it's not the mic. I am 100% sure it's not the mic. It has to be one of the settings for the mic. I'm pretty positive on that. See if I look at something. Hmm. No, it doesn't even have that. All right, yeah, I'm gonna have to Google something. I'm definitely gonna have to Google something because that's really odd. All right, I'll take a look at it. I'm gonna have to maybe cut the session a little short. Probably look at it after hours. But at least something that I wanted to point out in particular was another setup similar to Oxy. The other setup that I was watching was Airbnb. This is another one that has a similar setup in terms of how Oxy looks with that descending broadening wedge action. I'm looking to pretty much snipe this down towards the bottom trend line support here. This is what I'm looking at. Likely end up towards 92. 92 to 91 would likely end up being the target here on Airbnb, as this volatility likely ends up continuing in the market and persist. I'm looking to see if I can snipe the bottom off of Airbnb here around that 91 level, and that would likely be a beautiful one. As you see, pretty much Oxy that ended up bottoming off of that downtrend support level, and you see how much of a distance you have towards the resistance. So that's what I'm going to look to see if I can get this right around that 90 to 91 mark, and then obviously it'll take time, but you'll gradually see this trend right back towards resistance once the market starts to find bottom. This is one that I'm kind of watching. I have it in hindsight here, so if you get a pretty much a mental image of how Airbnb looks right now, right? If I flip back to Oxy, you pretty much look to see basically almost a similar pattern, just in a larger degree, right? So same scenario right now. So if you try to snipe it off the bottom, obviously if you ended up buying Oxy down here at $8, you see exactly how much upside potential you had, as it's now more than quadrupled. All right. So that's pretty much what I was trying to get at in terms of that being one of my favorite patterns and actually having potentially the most upside for me. This is why I'm kind of looking for a lot of these patterns in the descending broadening wedge actions. All right. Other than that, I did mention this morning on Tesla. That was one that was pretty much on my watch list. I mentioned to keep an eye on it. Once it ended up dropping under that 758 mark, that was the line in the sand. You also had a nice little head and shoulders action here today. That left shoulder, the head, and then that right. You had the retest, and then obviously you saw that flush. So 758, I mentioned that on live earlier this morning, and I said that 758 was likely going to be the breakdown level. You teetered with it. You got the retest of the neckline of the head and shoulders before it ended up ultimately flushing. That was a beautiful short this morning. We also had the beautiful cloud alert to pretty much end the day. And I'm hoping that at some point right now in time that it's going to be as easy as getting a cloud alert like this, just one a day, and you make your daily goal and be done for the day. Because this was literally one of those kind of plays where if you end up taking that cloud alert at the end of the day, maybe you didn't touch anything all day and you waited for the cloud alert, that right cloud alert. This is one that ended up just paying for the day, and that was it. You hit your daily goal and you walk away. So I'm hoping ultimately, as we continue to keep working on the cloud alerts, we get these pretty much ramped up and we get them as efficient as is needed. This is what likely be the result as we saw with Facebook at the end of the day. But this was a ascending broadening wedge action, which is typically bearish. You had the nice little wedge action inside of it. We pretty much triggered it right at this candle, right around, what was that, 215 it triggered? If that was right around the 202 half to 203 mark. And then you ended up getting a nice little bounce before it ended up breaking that trend line support. And we flushed right down to target price at the 20, at the 200 flat spot basically. So that was just a beautiful breakdown. I'm hoping those keep rolling out. Those of you that are not aware, I actually do have, I believe it's Disney that's currently in beta, so that should be rolling out on the cloud alerts very soon. Hopefully by the end of the week, maybe next week. All depends how much um, we can see the results off of that, and then that one will hopefully be available to all of you. But other than that, let's see what pretty much comes tomorrow. Again, tomorrow's just more so of a wild card day. I can tell you things are going to likely go up, go down, but it's likely all going to depend upon what Powell's going to say. Is he going to give the market what they want? We get the short term bounce and then flush, or does he end up saying something bad and the market takes it the wrong way and we end up retesting our lows on SPY at 385 to break down even further? So that's basically just the two scenarios you're watching. All right. Other than that, though, I'm gonna call it a little bit short and sweet right now. I'm gonna try and see what I can do for those of you. I'm assuming those of you that can't hear me are likely on mobile. I'm assuming that. I don't know if maybe anyone can comment on that. but I believe it's because you're on mobile or maybe you have your own headset on, maybe. But I'm assuming that's really what the case is. But I'm gonna try and Google something to see what that is. If there's a solution on my end that I can pretty much do for you guys. But kind of odd that some of you can hear me probably through computer, and some of you can't hear me through headsets, basically your own headsets. So that's what I'm gonna actually Google, and I'll see what I can do about that. But pretty much to conclude things short and sweet, um, I think tomorrow is likely gonna be a wild card. So wait for Powell to pretty much speak. Give it a few minutes before the market picks a rightful direction. That's pretty much what I would say right now. But other than that, hopefully you guys have taken advantage of the indicator package. I know that Sig and Dapper have gone above and beyond to pretty much make sure that works for everyone. They got everything that's pretty much as simplified as possible, and those guys will pretty much try and go in a little more in depth today through class and give you guys a little bit of a walkthrough. So I'll conclude there. Other than that, I'll work on seeing what I do about the mic, and I will see you guys on live tomorrow morning. Then, all right. But we'll call it short and sweet. And hopefully I have a resolution for the mic situation tomorrow. Then, all right. But I'll leave it at